Hello everybody, welcome back to The Contrarian. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Logan, and I really like to talk about overall success in investing, and most of all investing in such a way as to outperform the market in the long term, which fundamentally means going against the crowd at certain points in time and at times taking very unpopular positions. So today I'm going to look into two companies that essentially fit, broadly speaking, into the same category of retail trading and the drastic increase in retail trading activity that has occurred recently. And these two companies are Robinhood and Coinbase. And I'll take a look at their financials and which one, in my opinion, I would purchase over the other. So which would be a better deal. Now, to begin with, I know that for those of you who are returning subscribers, you're going to know that I'm probably going to be fairly bearish on both of these companies. However, I'm going to try to set aside this sort of preconceived notion of mine, and I'm just going to look at them in a comparative analysis and essentially look at which one I would rather purchase than the other if I had to purchase one of them. So without further ado, I will just take us into the financial statements on Yahoo Finance. First of all, starting with Coinbase. Okay everybody, so I'm looking here on Yahoo Finance at Coinbase. To get started, they do have a fairly decent fundamentals actually right now. PE ratio of around 19, earnings per share of around $13.50 we could say. So that isn't terrible. I don't really pay any sort of attention to these overvaluation or undervaluation because it tends to be contradictory at times. So I don't really pay any sort of attention to that. Now, Coinbase has traded significantly lower than where it is right now and significantly higher since they recently went public just this year. So, you know, it is going to be a bit hard to say where the valuation ends up long term. But just looking at these statistics here, trailing PE of 27 right now anyways, and forward PE of 22. Price to sales around 11, price to book around 12, enterprise value to revenue of around 10.5, and enterprise value to earnings before interest and tax deductions of 23. Yeah, so essentially I'll just go into their financial statements now. Yeah, so I'm basically going to look at operating income is pretty decent. I mean, compared to, as you'll see later on, Robinhood, I would say Coinbase is so far doing a lot better. Now the EPS, earnings per share, still lower than what I would prefer. Obviously, this is a comparative analysis, so I'm kind of having to throw out any other companies that I would prefer to invest in before any of these. Now, an important thing here is they do have equity, so that is definitely another thing that they have over Robinhood, because they have greater assets than liabilities and therefore more equity. So that's kind of all I can really look at so far with Coinbase. Earnings, again, they're greatly improved in 2020 than 2019. So, I mean, all of this is really due to the explosion in crypto trading that has happened recently, just with the very bullish run that cryptos have had in general over the last year, especially with Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin and everything is exploding in popularity. I would mainly attribute that to Coinbase's growth. I guess the only kind of bearish, the mainly bearish kind of sign that I could give to Coinbase is that I am skeptical that this extreme euphoria is going to stay in crypto long term, and that is really what Coinbase depends on. So now looking at Robinhood, this is also a very recent IPO. They've also traded in a wide range since they went public. So yeah, I will now look at the statistics. Also being given a very generous valuation in terms of other financial institutions out there. I would also, just broadly speaking, say that Robinhood is way overvalued, but this is a comparative analysis again. Forward PE does not exist, but overall, as you'll see, earnings are not good for Robinhood. Price to sales, very high. Price to book doesn't exist because it doesn't have any book value. Going on to the financial statements of Robinhood. Again, pre-tax income is fairly high. Net income, stockholder equity. Going on to the balance sheet. Here is where it starts to really become evident that Robinhood has a long ways to go, and that they just have a lot of liabilities, don't have any equity essentially. So you're buying into you're having to buy into a growth story if you're long Robinhood, as well as Coinbase, but especially Robinhood. You're having to go long a growth story, which is that retail trading is going to continue to grow from here long term, which again I would say is a trend that has been in Robinhood's favor for the last year or 2 years, but I just don't see that continuing much longer. I would point back to the .com bubble when E-Trade was, it's essentially what Robinhood is now. E-Trade was the sort of go-to trading platform for all of these newer investors out there who were just starting to invest, or speculate would be a better term for it. They were buying all of these .com stocks that were being pushed out there, and essentially, long story short, that did not last very long. E-Trade did experience a significant user base growth temporarily, kind of like what Robinhood is experiencing right now, but that did not last long. It obviously all came crashing down when the .com bubble did end up imploding. So if I were to purchase either Robinhood or Coinbase, I would have to go with Coinbase simply because of the fundamentals they have being marginally better than Robinhood. However, broadly speaking, I wouldn't buy either of them right now, so I'm not sure that I'm the best person to be asking for advice out there in terms of growth investing. I'm not a growth investor by nature. I'm a contrarian sort of value investor, which some people don't entirely know what that means, but it's essentially value investing in its purest form, in that you're not really looking at the overall sentiment, and if anything, you're looking for companies that have very beaten down fundamentals just by extremely negative sentiment. So broadly speaking, I wouldn't touch either Robinhood or Coinbase, but if I had to choose one, I would choose Coinbase. So all of that being said, if you guys like this kind of content, just consider subscribing, and I hope to see you again at some point in the future.